Welcome to Listen by Gene Ginsburg. This audio experience and podcast is all about social media, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, and interviews with top entrepreneurs in the digital and social space. I am your host, Gene Ginsburg, digital marketing expert, #1 best-selling author, and award-winning entrepreneur. I will be sharing with you strategies, tips, and tactics on how to grow your business and your social media following. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, Gene Ginsburg here, and welcome back to this episode of Listen by Gene Ginsburg. And I have a very special guest today, Dan Pfister. How are you?
Doing great, Gene. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's wonderful for you to be here, and I'm very excited about jumping in. So typically I always ask, for our audiences who are listening, let's start with your background. So tell us about that.
I've been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years. About 20 years ago, started a company called The Business Source, and with a couple of partners, and that did okay. We had to reinvent ourselves a number of times, but what we did was there was one time we pivoted away from big companies. We went for smaller customers. We generated about 50,000 of them, and it was the attrition, the customer loss that we had in that group that actually got me interested in winning back old customers, because so much money was going out the back door from attrition.
Right. Okay. So is that the problem that you are typically solving for your business or other clients' businesses?
Exactly.
Okay.
And the reason I actually started an entire new business around this was back in 2016, we had a particularly bad year for attrition. And I had been bugged by one of my partners, go back and try to win back some of these old customers. And I was really reticent to do it because, we put a lot of work into, customer retention. We did a lot of, what you would call customer success now. And I did a lot of ad hoc outreach to past customers. But what happened was, I had typically looked at how much we had, the cost of a lost customer is just the ARR. And what I did this time is I took a look at the amount of referral revenue we had lost, the cross-sell, upsell revenue we had lost, the cost of replacing that customer. And when I added all those numbers up, it was a big number. And then I multiplied that by the number of customers we'd lost in the last 2 years, and it kind of freaked me out. That was a pile of money that went out the back door. So what I did is I agreed to do to try to put together some kind of a campaign to win back these people. And, I wasn't very optimistic, because out of that pool that was left after, all of our retention efforts, like what could be left? And it got a 57x ROI. It was just shocking. It was like there was this whole new revenue stream right sitting there, and it got me so excited. And so what I did is, over the last 4 years, I really optimized that and been an evangelist for it. And I built a business around it about 1.5 years ago.
Okay, so tell us about your business.
So basically, the idea is that there is so much money left after customer success, in these past customers. And so what I did is I did a study to find out exactly how much money is being left on the table. Like, what is a past customer worth when they come back? And basically it boils down to this, is that what I found in my study was, for SMBs, the average win-back campaign generates $485K. And it's a lot more, obviously, for bigger companies. And for micro businesses, it's $122K. And the cost of winning back a customer is very, very low. So you've got, there's no advertising costs or anything like that. I mean, basically, most of it is just simple email or phone outreach. And so obviously that's very low. And when you combine that low cost of reacquisition with the big money that comes in, from the actual sales, you get a very high ROI. And typically these things generate at least 32x ROI, and it's very typical to see over 100x ROI. So I know that sounds like, a really big number, and it is a big number. But when you think about it, if you win back a $100,000 client, it took 6 phone calls to make, and you're using existing staff, the ROI is pretty decent. And for a lot of this study, what I found was there was a lot of numbers like that were surprisingly big. Like what we found is that customer lifetime value doubled or more when people came back. And I wanted some corroborating evidence before I put that in the study. And what I found was I found a lot of corroborating evidence. In Harvard Business Review, they did a study, or they published a study that involved over 40,000 lost customers. And what they found was that customer lifetime value increased by about 120% the second time around. They found that 27% of past customers come back. In my study, we found that 26% on average. There's some groups that get like 5% and some groups get, much, much higher. But, the whole thing is that if you've been in business for, say, 3 or more years, like the average business loses about half its customers every 3 years, and you've got real potential to develop a whole new revenue engine in your business. That's the bottom line.
Right. Absolutely. So it's funny, we were talking offline before, and you said you were writing a book, right? You were gonna.
Yep.
Awesome. And so I actually published the book about 3 years ago, and my book is called Win New Customers. I think maybe yours should be called like Win Back New Old Customers. So I just thought it was and tell us about your book. Yeah, I think this is a good time to segue into that.
Sure. Well, it's funny. I was on a conference call, and I just said that I just mentioned a different name for WinBack, and I called it Customer Drift. And somebody said, that's the name of a book. And that kind of like planted the seed in my head. And a couple of people have told me that there really isn't much out there on winning back old customers. The last book I saw was written just about 20 years ago by a woman named Jo Griffin. She did a tremendous job. And anyway, so what I've been doing is I've been interviewing people who've done really successful win-back campaigns. So because there's all kinds of different strategies for doing this, and so I'm just gathering a lot of stories, my experiences, how we optimize our campaigns, what other people do. So that's what I'm doing.
Awesome! I'm excited. Yeah. When is the book coming out?
Well, I'm shooting for late 2021, but it all depends on how fast I can get like really quality interviews done. Like I've got 6 fantastic ones so far, and I think I probably need about 30. That's what I'm shooting for anyway.
Awesome.
So if anybody has great win-back stories out there,
absolutely, please reach out, and we'll get to that. We'll get to how people can reach out to you at the end. So another question I had is, why would we want to win back an old customer, and why not just focus on new business?
Sure. Well, the thing is that the cost, winning back or just acquiring a new customer, that's one of the biggest expenses we have in business. Right. Just think about all the steps you've got to go through in the customer journey. You've got to get a lead, you got, MQLs, SQLs, the opportunities. With a past customer, you skip all of that, right? They already know you, they already know your product. You've already broken down the trust wall. You've got a relationship with them. How long does that take to go from a cold prospect to that? And that's where you're starting. And the other thing is that it's so easy to engage these people. Jeb Blunt said in his book, Fanatical Prospecting, it only takes 1 to 3 touches to engage a past customer. So you can test out this idea very, very fast, whether or not this will work for you, in a couple of weeks. Put an afternoon, a week to this and see, do your past customers respond? Will they come back? And the answer, if you've been in business for 3 years or more and you've got a good product, the answer is, I have not found anyone who says no, that it hasn't worked.
Right. Okay. No, this is all very good. So speaking of that, so winning back new customers, so let's take a step back. What is the main reason that customers leave in the first place? This podcast is brought to you by the Digital Marketing Method monthly group coaching program, your methodology for growing your business and your social media following. Join me and my group of supportive entrepreneurs and learn how you can grow your business and your social media following, where we cover topics such as Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, email marketing, and so much more. Go to dmgroup.online, dmgroup.online.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I guess, in some industries, it's customer satisfaction, right? They weren't happy with how they were treated or something like that. There's a lot of customer service issue, customer defection around that. There's a competitor lured them away. They think that the grass is greener on the other side, that kind of thing. And, the thing is that when you've got a situation where people have left because of a customer service issue, or maybe they had a problem with the AE or something like that, or customer success, if you go and you fix that problem, if you take care of that, customer loyalty actually goes up. Like, there's all kinds of studies that have been done that show that a customer who is satisfied has one level of loyalty, but people who have had a problem and that problem has been fixed, their level of loyalty goes up. And so, those are really the core reasons why people leave. And winning them back, like I said, somebody might, a competitor might come out and they might make some big promises. It's always worthwhile to check back in 3 or 4 months to see if they really did deliver on those promises. Because if they didn't, the door is open, right? And so now they've seen you, they've seen your competitor. So when these people come back, like if they do come back, they're extremely loyal, right? Because they've seen both sides of the fence, and it's much harder for a competitor to win them away after that.
Sure. No, I think that's interesting to hear, because I've thought about that myself, and I'm like, should I go after old customers that I've had? And I think one of the things, just from my personal experience, just kind of sharing how I feel about it, is like, I think to myself, like, hey, they were a customer and they left for a reason, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So to me, I almost kind of feel a little awkward, like trying to go back to them and being like, hey, would you want to re-engage again? Because it's like, to me, and again, maybe this is just my mindset, or maybe this is just kind of how society has taught us to deal with customers. What are your thoughts on that? And I'm sure that you probably get pretty often.
No, it's so true. I mean, the first time I lost a big customer, it was Fidelity Investments. They delivered 6 figures a year to us. And when they left, we'd done work with them for 5 years. I was so upset. It's like, man, we serviced them like crazy. We did everything, and I felt like it was a personal failure, and I did not want to go back after them. And I didn't go back after them. And what I found is that we take these things way too personally, and we don't reach out because we don't want to be hurt again. I mean, that's how I felt anyway.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that people forgive, they forget, there's still there's a relationship there. Most people, unless you did something wrong, but really bad, they're happy to hear from you. And this is the thing that really kind of hit me, is when I started doing this, is, wow, that's really nice. They'll take my call. You come from a place of, we lost you. Where did things go sideways? What did we do? How can we correct it? If you approach them with respect and with an attitude of, we're here to make things better. And if we can't make things better, we're here to make sure we don't do this again with someone else. And people respect that.
Awesome. I love it. This makes me feel better, and it inspires me to maybe go after my old customers and reach out to them and see where they're at and see if we could potentially work together. So this is very inspiring for me too. I'm learning a lot. Another question I have is, so if Winback generates such great ROI, which you mentioned earlier, why isn't everybody else doing it?
Well, I think, there's 2 reasons. One reason is that there aren't protocols out there for winning back customers. There's, I don't see any major sales trainer out there saying, okay, so after a customer's gone, these are the 17 steps you go through to win them back, or 7 steps, whatever. That's one thing. The other thing is, I think that it's part of our business culture. We go out and we want to find new business. That's it. We want to find new business, and we want to keep new business. And, the private equity firms, VC firms, if you want funding, the way these people measure, one of the ways these people value you is how many net new logos have you got in the last quarter. So your CEO, if they want funding, he or she's got to go there and say, we've got 100 net new logos in the last quarter. That's what they've got to go and say. So what do? They get a sales manager who is there. That's their task. Go get those 100 net new logos in the next quarter. So it's just, we're just conditioned for that. And I think one of the reasons I call myself a win-back evangelist is because I'm really passionate about this. You've got revenue sitting there. It shouldn't matter where the revenue comes from. If the revenue is there, get it. And why wouldn't you? And it's not only that, but when you go and you've had a customer that you've lost, maybe there was some issue. When you go back to them and you straighten things out, all that negative word of mouth or that potential negative word of mouth is gone. Now it could even be turned around, and in a lot of businesses, word of mouth, personal referrals, those are critical. So there's just like one more thing to add into the mix.
Right, absolutely. And so, which leads me to my next question is, you mentioned there's not a lot out there when it comes to winning back customers. So tell us maybe a short little process that you use, or maybe you can recommend to audiences who are listening as to how do they go about doing it?
Sure. So the first thing is, make a list of all your past customers. First identify them, take out the people that you're not really that interested in, and then take a look at their past lifetime, their first lifetime value, and rank them on that. And, throw out the people who haven't done business with you in a long time, So the idea is, we got a much more complex process, but I'm just trying to give you like a bird's eye kind of view of, if somebody wanted to do this tomorrow. So the people who've left the most recently, the people who've had the highest lifetime value, those are the people you want to go after first. So that's the group that you identify. Then what you do is you reach out to a subset of them and you ask them, you find out why they left, what it'll take to get them back, talk to your AEs, do this work internally first, then do it externally, right? Asking a subset of people. What you might find is there's something you need to tweak about your offer, about your process. Make that tweak. Then what we do is we take a look at all the different types of approaches you could use to win them back. So we design a campaign. And what we normally do is we design at least 2 cadences for each customer segment. So say you had a super high value segment and a regular segment. So you'd create a couple of cadences for each of those. And then you roll out. And the rollout is just basically testing the cadences. And then you roll out the winner to your entire list of past customers. Awesome.
Yep. Okay. So it's just a matter of good old rolling up your sleeves, looking at your previous customer list and doing some outreach and engagement, huh?
Exactly.
Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy. And I've got a lot of stuff on my on LinkedIn where you can get a lot of ideas of different approaches you can take. So it's not just going out and saying, "Hey, do you want to come back?" So check that out. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, which is actually a good segue into my next question is how can audiences get in touch with you and find more information about what you're talking about today?
I think the best way is to find me on LinkedIn, Dan M. Pfister. Or actually maybe what's even better is just go to my website, strategicwinback.com, and all the links to my email and everything are there.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I've learned so much. This has been a big thing for me lately. I actually recently hired a sales coach, and part of what we've been doing is just doing outreach. Again, nothing sexy, just doing good old outreach and saying hello. And so this definitely inspired me to look after my old clients and see what's going on with them, and maybe just say hello, especially now.
Perfect time of year. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. This was great. I learned a lot, and I hope our audiences too. And this was super helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for having me, Gene. Appreciate it.